We are here. It is test day. I am excited. We're making a fourth soap today, and then we're going to test them all. And it's going to be an amazing time because I love test days. They're among my favorite things ever. Just watching a big bubble or a lack thereof and all of the things. It's a good time, you know? And I'm wearing a STEMinist t-shirt today because Scout is doing for her science fair project. She's doing bath bombs. She's trying to build a better bath bomb, and she's not letting me help. Like she's somehow forgotten that I do this for a living. So I'm just like casually wearing stuff around that might lead her to that whole, I could help, you know? Like it's my name tag. It's all a thing. I will tell you more about the soap that we're making and the tests that we are conducting on this awesome rose journey in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And you are here for the fourth and final day of making rose soaps. Now, we've made 2 rose oil soaps. We've made 1 rose hip oil soap so far. And today is going to be the final rose hip soap. And we are going to be testing them all. Now, what are we looking for with these tests? Well, we're going to be looking for the moisture level. We want to see how big of a bubble it is, how long lasting it's ultimately going to be, if it has a slimy hand feel, if it has a nice slip to it while we are using it, if the bubble is immediate or if you really have to work for it, if it is going to be overly drying or, you know, whatever, all of the things. We are looking for the actual performance of the soap within this, which is one of the reasons why I kept all of these recipes basically the same. With the coffee soaps, because coffee was going to be such a slam dunk any way that you incorporated it, I did lean more into putting more shea or more, you know, whatever. But with these 4 soaps, I basically kept the recipes constant, and really the only change outs were whether there was a rose oil / butter component or a rose hip oil / butter component across the board, so we can really judge them all against each other to see if there's a better way to incorporate. So let's get to the making of this soap. Spoiler alert, I managed a white soap today. I'm also going to tell you how I did that, and I'm very excited about it, and to the tests and all the things. You know, let's go do all of that. Okay, soap 4, and the way I was able to keep it white was pretty simple actually. There's no lye infusion, no lye enhancement in this at all. So there's no rose hip within the actual solution. We are dealing with rose hip in the form of the rose hip butter and the rose hip oil. Rose hip butter is within the cocoa butter. The rose hip oil is within the green tea oil. That's what it was infused with. And then copious amounts of kaolin clay, but I've been putting that into every batch, you know? So it's the incorporation into the actual lye infusion that's been giving me troubles. And so I eliminated it completely, which I thought would be fun. We could tell if there's a difference between the rose hip lye enhancement versus the no lye enhancement for rose hip for both those soaps, and see if we end up liking one over the other. Now, I did actually get people in the comments asking if it would work better for a lye solution to have the white roses instead of the red. And it's an interesting question, isn't it? The answer to that is I don't know. I don't actually know the answer if we use the red. Oh, this rose vanilla is so good. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with this scent so hard. Get it from Sierra Candles. Don't sleep on it. You won't regret it, I promise. But I don't know if we use the white rose petals in the rose soaps, if that will accomplish no discoloration. I am going to, I mean, like logically, I'm going to say yes, probably, but also, I don't know. We used dandelion root, well, dandelion fluff in our soaps last summer, you remember? And they got yellow, weirdly. That is to say that the lye solution, it went yellow, you know? And so that was very interesting. So I don't know, actually. I If I try, I will let you guys know and I will update you if I try with some white roses. And I do have some at the house right now that I could play with. So with this particular soap, we are going to be doing the same Z's that we've been doing, layered soaps. This one is going to have a mica line. I really had it in my mind that I wanted a very just stark white soap with a beautiful copper mica line. And so that is what I am doing. People have been asking about the how I do my mica lines. This is how I take a piece of nylon, or, in this case, it's that one stuff. You know what it is. You guys will have I don't know what this is. I use nylons usually, but, and then put it over the top of any mica and just go to town. And then I don't have to worry about any little sifters and all the jazz and those little pew pew mica line things that you can get from Mad Micas or whatever. Those clog, they do not work. They break. I hate them. I have probably a dozen of them just sitting in a bin in the soap shop that are all broken and worthless. And so I do it this way instead. Cheesecloth. That's what it's called. So, as I had been saying within all of these, I wanted to keep the recipe basically the same for all of the soaps so we could test the actual differences. So, if we have this basically the same fatty acid profiles from one soap to the next, is this going to is there going to be a difference between the different types of enhancements and the way that we put them in? And so that's what we are going to be testing at the end of all of this once I finish up with this soap. And this soap is, of course, going to be C-popped and gelled because I do that with all of my soaps. So this one would be no different. Now, the things that I have noticed just messing with the rose overall in these recipes, we've talked about the benefits of the rose and the rose hip, antioxidant rich, all of the beautiful skin brightening, skin softening, moisturizing, all of the jazz. I have noticed that because it's been such a pain in the butt, particularly with the rose, to actually get the infusion going and get an infusion that means much of anything. And so, as a result of that, like for the soaping notes, I think because you're using a fair amount, it should provide some benefit within the actual lather or the properties of the bar. But for cosmetics, that's going to be maybe a question mark. You are really going to want a rather potent, extract or any sort of enhancement for your cosmetics because, while you have your actives and everything within your cosmetics, they are used at very small amounts for sure, but they are incredibly potent. They're used at very small amounts because of their potency. So that might run kind of difficult maybe with the formulations of your cosmetics if you're looking for a good, potent rose product and you don't know how potent your actual oil is or your extract is. All of that to say that I am starting to lean towards, or have been leaning towards, rose maybe not being worth the hassle, and I super do understand why it's so expensive. That said, kind of as I said in the very first video with all of this and talking about the different benefits, I know that there are a lot of other extracts or botanicals that I can make extracts from at home that also have the same benefits of these of the rose. And so I can't super justify the need to incorporate it, especially not within soap itself. Rose butter is expensive, rose oil is expensive. Yes, you can infuse those. So if you are, ahead of the curve and you have plenty of time, a few months to get your infusion going to a potency that you're happy with, then sure, you're going to really help out with the price point there doing it yourself. Rose essential oil, I get why it's expensive, and because it's so expensive and because aromatherapy is a whole thing within the benefits of rose, can't justify it within a soap. Doesn't make any sense to me. And so for that, I'm gonna lean with no unless these bars perform like amazingly well. For the rose hip, however, a very, very inexpensive product. It's very easy to infuse in all manner of things. I have done a glycerin infusion. I have done an alcohol infusion. We've obviously done the rose water, and we have done the rose oil and butter. And it was easy peasy. It definitely gives up all of its yummy goodness really, really quickly and without a lot of effort. And so, rose hip, considering it's so much cheaper and these fatty acid profiles are very, very similar, I'm going to go ahead and say that, yeah, I think rose hip is going to be the better option for your soap, most definitely. And maybe for the cosmetics too. We will talk about that in, next week's, tomorrow's content or whatever, because we're going to start the cosmetic stuff. And so we will explore more of that at that time. But for this, look how gorgeous my soap is. Isn't it beautiful? I know. And it stayed white and lovely and all of the gorgeous things really for a very long time. Oh, I mean, it's still white, it's cured, it's all the things. You're going to see it right now, the end result of all of these things, because through cure, some of them did get darker, some of them did not. This one is one of the ones that did not. That rose vanilla is fire. But let's go check out all of these tests. And we're going to start with the first one that we did. And look how much darker that got. Yeah, that discolored a lot. I want to say that I used a discoloring fragrance, but now I don't remember at this point. It feels like a million years ago because it was a million years ago when I made it, but also check out how quick that bubble went. First up, in the hand, this feels like satin. It is so smooth, so beautiful, not in a way that it's going to fall, like slip out of my hand. And that lather is just giving. Now, that is the rose soap that we did with the proper rose water infusion, in addition to the rose oil and the rose butter. And so there's a very potent infusion with that one that sat for a very long time. You remember how dark it was. Now this is the second rose soap. So this is the one where I just threw the petals into the lye solution and just did the quick infusion, strained them, and then did my thing. Also a very quick lather. Also feels really luxurious on the skin. And that lather is just that, like, I don't know. It's very not slimy at all, but it's definitely just it's bubbling, and it's not bubbling, but it's giving at this point. I have not the right word, and it's going to bother me. I'm going to find it eventually, but that is a beautiful lather. It's all over the place. It's just everywhere. It's like cascading off of my hands. Absolutely gorgeous lather for sure. So that's true of both of these. Now this is the first rose hip. This has the rose hip water in the lye, as well as the rose hip butter and oil in the actual formulation. And it feels delightful in the hand, but it is actually interestingly taking a little bit more time, a little bit more work to get that big bubble going. I do find that interesting. I am surprised by that for sure. This was not what I expected at all from the rose hip. So, maybe I'm completely full of crap, but look, see how tiny and tight those bubbles are? That is a nice foamy lather. It's very good for like a shave soap or something. That would be delightful, or to cleanse the skin, you know? But yeah, it does take a little bit more effort to get that lather going. So that may be a soap recipe that I would want to add an additional lye enhancement to, perhaps some sugar to really increase that bubble so you get the payoff quicker. This one was not the case though. This has no rosehip water in it. It just has the rose oil and the rose butter, and it feels delightful. I think by far this one felt the best in my hand. I was obsessed with that lather. I couldn't stop playing with it. It had some foamy elements that'll stand up on its own, as well as, the really big lather that's just going to fall off your hands as you're washing. I don't know. I think that one's probably my favorite, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Which one do you like the most? So I definitely have a favorite with these tests, and I'm sure you know what that one is, but tell me what your favorite is with all of this in the comments. Let me know, because you got to see them all in action. And I have a lot of thoughts for sure, but I already give my thoughts because, the camera is here on me, filming me. So I want to know yours. For my part, just kind of summarizing this, for what rose oil from the actual petals does to all of these products, so far within the soaping area, I can't justify it. I really can't. Rose hip makes a whole lot more sense. And if we're looking at label appeal, rose and rose hip are going to be easily interchangeable for a label appeal, perspective. And so I don't think it really matters if it says rose oil or rose hip oil. I think people are still going to go, oh, well, that's rose. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably fine. And for what rose oil costs and rose essential oils cost versus what rose hip costs and what you can do with rose hip, I like rose hip and soaps for sure, especially considering in order for it to make a difference at all, you need kind of a copious amount. That's not necessarily true with your leave-on products and your cosmetics. In a lot of instances, a couple drops will do, but that's not what we're focusing on this week. We're focusing on the soaps. And for me, rose hip wins over the rose oil. But that doesn't mean I'm right. So what do you guys think? What are your preferences? Let me know. Let's have a dialogue in the comments below. All the things. Thank you guys so much for being here. Sudzers, you guys are awesome. Thank you for existing, for being you. All the submissions for Project Soapway have been absolutely awesome. Having a hard time actually narrowing everything down, but we're going to do that. We are doing that thing this weekend, and so look out for the winner announcements sometime this weekend. Speaking of weekends, everybody that is here, like especially the Sudzers, but I guess also the people who haven't subscribed. I mean, I have a good weekend, I suppose. For sure, Sudzers, you guys have a good weekend. But for the rest of you, I don't know that I like you enough to care, you know? So I am going to go and have a great weekend. Madonna is my Sunday night thing. So that's kind of fun, going to see Madonna. That's wild. I never thought I would say those words in my lifetime, but there it is, you know? And so I will see you guys all again on Monday for our cosmetic round of rose oil, rose hip oil, extractions, infusions, all of the things not at all soapy, soapy fun. Bye.